Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first talk of the new semester, organized by the Center for Economics Research and the Economics Department at St.Stephen's College. Today we have with us Prof.Arun Kumar, and we'll be talking on a topic which cannot be more current and ready for discussion. It's on the black economy in India, the remedies. Professor Arun Kumar doesn't need much of an introduction. He did physics in St. Stephen's College, taught the university, went for his PhD in physics to Princeton University, where he decided to get into economics, come back to India, joined the Jawaharlal Nehru University, where he completed his doctoral studies, and taught there from 1984 to 2015. His area of research has been the black economy in India, so there cannot be anyone who has done more extensive, exhaustive and authentic work in this topic. I don't know if that qualifies these days to talk about the topic though. So, but his book on black economy was path-breaking research in the field in India. He has also written on the Indian economy since independence, on the crisis in higher education in Indian universities, was awarded the Ricardo Prize in 2013 for development economics. Has also presented what has been known as the alternate budgets and alternate economic survey for 20 years as part of a group trying to look at the economic survey from a very different perspective than what the official studies would basically tell us. Professor Arun Kumar will be talking today on understanding the black economy, but the topic is actually focusing on the black economy in India and the remedies, first trying to give us an understanding of the black economy and thereby then only going into the remedies. So we will stay with the same format. If you have any conceptual questions in between the presentation, feel free to raise your hands and clear that. But for all other queries, it would be better if you wait till the end of the talk where we can have a better round of interaction. Right, so now it's over to Professor Arun Kumar for the discussion.
Thank you very much for inviting me to come here and talk. It's a pleasure to talk in the college where I studied. While they're setting up the thing, I must first begin by apologizing for keeping you waiting. I had a seminar at India International Center, and there was a lot of traffic on the way, so I got a little held up because I think I misestimated the amount of time it would take. Is it audible? Yeah. So this is an area that I've been researching for a very long time. I first started researching this area in 79-80. A friend of mine, he was setting up a sugar industry in West UP, and he wanted to know what the prospects are. And therefore I started looking at the sugar industry, and I found a lot of black income generation in the sugar industry by a variety of means. So that is the first introduction to this topic of black economy that I had. And then what happened was that my parents, I came back from Princeton, my parents hadn't bought any property for their retirement. Both of them were professors. My father was teaching in Allahabad University and my mother was teaching in Lady Sham College. So I think it didn't strike them that they needed to have some place to live in. So I started dabbling in real estate. And I realized that there was a lot of black money being generated in real estate also. So my introduction to this topic of black economy was via these experiences that I had of black income generation in sugar industry, then real estate, and I realized that the builders and brokers were bordering on criminality. They did all kinds of things, which were very criminal. So I thought this is something I should study, and soon I realized that black economy is the most important problem of India. If you don't understand the black economy, you cannot understand India. So the first slide, please. So as a preliminary, what I'm going to be presenting is based on my book which I published in 1999, The Black Economy in India, which Penguin brought out. And then the second edition came out in 2002. And because Mr. V.P. Singh, the former Prime Minister, liked the book a lot, so he gave the foreword to the second edition. Now, what I was doing there was only analyzing the black economy, but I wasn't analyzing the main economy. So what I did in the second book is Indian Economy Since Independence, integrated the analysis of Indian economy with the black economy, along with many other things like technology and so on and so forth. But you see, my point is that you have to understand the white economy and the black economy together if you want to understand India. If you only deal with the white economy, then you don't understand the real India. Because now black economy, according to my recent estimate in EPW, which came out on 29 November, black economy is 62% of GDP. So you can't ignore 62% of GDP and hope to come out right, because 62% of GDP means it's larger than agriculture plus industry put together, or it's 2 times the size of government intervention in the economy. So if you ignore government or if you ignore agriculture plus industry, indeed your results cannot come out right. So this is the central thing that is there. Okay, now if we have to understand this phenomenon, very often people ask me, what is it like in the developing world? And my argument is the theoretical framework I have given applies elsewhere also. So my book got reviewed in the Dawn, it got reviewed in Mexico, it got reviewed in Brazil and so on. And people there, when they wrote the reviews, they said it's exactly the way it operates here also. So that gave me the confidence that my theoretical framework had certain degree of robustness, that in the developing world, this kind of framework applies. And it impacts, the economic, the social, and the political. So in other words, it's not just an economic issue. It is economic, political, and social. So it encompasses the society as a whole, and that's why it's very important to understand it. Okay. And recently we've been talking about remedying it. So demonetization is only one of the things that has been talked about. But when Ramdev and Anna Hazare were there, they were also talking about how to remedy the situation. So if you go back to 2010 to 2012, there was a very strong movement, and the idea was we have to remedy it. But my argument has been that you cannot remedy a situation if you don't know the cause. So first you need to know the cause. If you don't have the correct cause, then you can't even do the remedy. So I argue that we are like the 7 blind men and the elephant. One touches the tail and says it's a broom, another touches the leg and says it's a pillar of a building, a third touches the trunk and says it's a hose pipe. So one is solving the problem of the hose pipe, another is solving the problem of the building, and the third is solving the problem of the broom, but none is solving the problem of the elephant. So in other words, we have not identified the correct cause till now, and that's why there have been at least 40 committees and commissions that have gone into different aspects of the black economy, okay? And they made thousands of suggestions. Like Vanchu committee in 1970 was rich with suggestions. And we've implemented hundreds of them. So demonetization is not the first one that we've implemented. We've implemented many others also over the last 70 years. And yet the black economy continues to grow. And the reason is we haven't identified the correct cause. So it's like saying that if I want to go north, but my compass always points to the east, I'll never go to the north. So even if I'm active, I'm doing something, but I'm not getting to the goal that I want to get to. So that's why identifying the correct cause is very crucial. Next slide, please. Okay. First, let me clear some misconceptions about the black economy. So very often we think that black economy is corruption. Okay, but that's not true. Corruption involves a quid pro quo in cash or kind. Now, a lot of black economy involves illegality where there's no quid pro quo. So if I as a teacher go and do tuition and I make income which I don't declare, that's black income. Okay? But nobody is paying me a bribe to do that teaching. Or if I'm a doctor and I'm prescribing tests that are not needed and I get a cut from the lab, okay? That's black income. That's illegality that I'm committing because I'm not declaring that income. But nobody is bribing me to do that. Okay? So a lot of activity in the black economy involves some kind of illegality, but not necessarily a quid pro quo of some kind. Therefore, corruption and black economy are not the same. They're not synonymous. We very often think of corruption as black economy and black economy as corruption. Okay? But that's not true. Now, the point is, but there's a two-way link between them that I find. As corruption has grown in society, black economy has grown, and as black economy has grown, corruption has grown. So this two-way link is there, but they're not synonymous. Okay? That's the important thing to remember. Then, we must remember that black income generation takes place both in legal activities and illegal activities. So what is an activity? An activity is something that you do in the economy through which you earn an income. So that activity may be declared by society as legal, that is legally allowed. So like agriculture, industry, services of various kinds, they are legal activities. But black income is generated in all of them. And of course there are illegal activities, like for instance narcotic, drug trafficking, crime, bootlegging, gambling, sex work and so on. These are all illegal activities. And whatever income you earn there, that's black income. So black income is generated both in legal activities as well as in illegal activities. It's not as if it's only generated in illegal activities. And my split for 1995-96 was when the black economy size was 40% of GDP, 8% was coming from illegal activities and 32% was coming from legal activities. So bulk of the black income generation is in legal activities and not in illegal activities. So how do you generate a black income in legal activities? By committing some illegality. Okay. So some illegality is there. So that's one. Second point is that we often refer to the black economy as a parallel economy. Now that is completely incorrect. Why? What is the notion of parallel, which we do in our 6th class geometry? Two lines that meet at infinity. So they never meet. Now, the idea underlying that is black economy and white economy are completely separated, and that's why they're parallel. Now, this is also an erroneous assumption, because in India, you generate from the same activity a black income and a white income. So for instance, if you buy real estate, you first pay 40% in black, and then you pay 60% in white. So you generate a white income and black income together in an activity. You want to convert your black to white and white to black, you go to the stock market and take a book entry. So I take a loss, the other person takes a profit. So my white becomes black and his black becomes white. So we can convert white to black, black to white. So there are a large number of activities in our society where black and white are completely intertwined. It's not as if they're separate, so they're not parallel activities. Now in the advanced countries, it appears to be parallel because either it is legal activity or illegal activity and the two don't mix. Or it's formal activity or informal activity and the two don't mix. Okay? But in India, a large part of the informal activity is below the taxable limit. So, is there a board I can use? Is there a pen? So you see, typically, if you look at the income distribution in the economy, it is log normally distributed. Okay, it's intuitively obvious why it's log normally distributed, because hardly anybody will have zero income. Very few people will have high income, so the curve, the distribution curve has to go up and come down. So you look at Chinese economy, US economy, Canadian economy, Indian economy, your income distribution is log normal. Now in the advanced countries, taxation begins here. So bulk of the population is in the tax net. Okay. So for instance, when I was doing my PhD at Princeton, I was getting a $400 fellowship, which was at 1/3 the poverty line at that time, but I had to pay 20% tax. Okay. So even if you're below the poverty line, you still have to pay tax. In India, our taxation begins at 300% of the per capita income. So bulk of the population is outside the tax. Only very few people are in the tax net. So effectively in India, at the moment, 52 million people are in the tax net, but effectively only 16 million are paying taxes. So roughly 1.2% of the population pays taxes. So our tax base is very large. Why is that important? Because bulk of the informal sector income is in this part. So whether they declare their income or they don't declare their income, it's not black. So that's why in India, black economy cannot be called informal economy. Unlike in the West. So whenever I talk about the black economy in the West, they say, oh, you mean informal? I say no. In India, it's different. In India, yes, there are some dhaba walas, some khomcha walas who may be having a lot of income. So like outside UP, SC, there's a famous chaat wala, he'll have a high income. You go to Murthal on the highway, there'll be a lot of dhaba walas who will be earning a lot of money. But large part of the informal sector activity earns incomes way below the taxable limit. So that's why we can't call it informal. So therefore we can't call it parallel, we can't call it informal. Now there's another thing that people think of, that black economy means it is unaccounted and white economy means it's counted. So where counted and where not counted. So national income statistics has something called national account statistics. Okay. So national account statistics is where you count your incomes. How much income is generated in the economy. So this is where accounting is. So idea is that white is accounted and black is unaccounted. Now this is quite incorrect, because a part of the black gets accounted and a part of the white doesn't get counted. So like I was saying, informal sector activity, a part of the informal sector activity, even though not black, is not counted in the white economy. But a part of the black gets counted. So for instance, how is agriculture's income counted in the national account statistics? By something called the crop cutting experiment. So in this crop cutting experiment, what you do is you divide up the country into various zones, and you do experimental fields, and you get the yield from there, you multiply by the acreage, and you get the output. So whether as a farmer I'm declaring my income or I'm not declaring my income, it doesn't matter. It gets counted. So whether there's black income generation in agriculture or not, it gets counted. Similarly in the construction sector. In the construction sector, there is something called the product flow method, by which the contribution to national income is counted. So I say how much is the steel, and how much is the iron, and how much is the cement, and how much is brick, and how much is wood. I take that and apply the input-output ratio, and I find out what's the activity in the construction sector. So whether somebody is generating black income in the construction sector or not, it gets counted. Okay. So therefore, our national income is a hodgepodge. Some part of the white is not counted, some part of the black is counted. Okay. So we can't say black is unaccounted and white is accounted. Okay. This is also an incorrect definition. Next slide, please. Okay. So now the question is, how are black incomes generated? Okay. So this is a very simple or simplified model which tells you how it's counted. So suppose I was to buy this pen. This pen comes for say 10 rupees. I give 10 rupees to the shopkeeper. Now that is the revenue of the shopkeeper, not his income. Because he has bought it for 9 rupees from the dealer, he has spent something at the shop, he has spent something on the worker, etc. So his costs are say 9 rupees 50 paisa, so therefore his profit is 50 paisa. So when you subtract cost from revenue, you get the profit. Now there are two kinds of profits. One which I am declaring on the balance sheet and one which I am not declaring. So one is on balance sheet and the other is off balance sheet. Off balance sheet profit is the black income. Okay. On balance sheet profit is your white income. Okay. So in other words, how do I do that? What I do is, I have a declared part of the revenue and a declared part of the cost. The difference between the two gives me the white profit. That's my white income. And the undeclared revenue plus the overstated cost, that is my black profit. So what is the meaning of this? Your revenue is equal to price into quantity. Okay. So what I can do is, I can show lower price and lower quantity. Okay. So suppose I'm selling 1 million yards of textile. So I'll say I have sold only 500,000. So the revenue on 500,000 yards of textile is my black profit. And then I'm selling it at 10 rupees, but I'll say I have sold it at 8 rupees. So 2 rupees into the actual, that's also my black profit. So there are two ways of doing black profit: under invoicing price, under invoicing quantity, or under invoicing both. And businesses practice that. Okay. So therefore, what happens is profit is coming out of the sale of the textile. And this happens in everything, whether it be sugar or cement or tiles or anything. You're doing under invoicing of price, under invoicing of quantity, or both under invoicing of price and under invoicing of quantity. Okay. So that's the under declared revenue. What about the cost? Costs are several kinds of cost. I have wage cost, I have raw material cost, I have other costs like overhead costs, etc. All of them are inflated. So if I'm employing 10,000 workers, I'll claim I'm employing 20,000 workers. So 10,000 workers' salary is drawn up. This is called muster roll fudging. Okay. So you have labor cost. So L into W, this is the wage rate, this is the employment. So I can show higher L and higher W, both. So first time this was caught by the famous IS officer Arun Bhatia in the muster roll fudging in the employment guarantee scheme in Maharashtra, in Dhulia. So when 1,000 people were supposed to be working, 100 were working, and these guys were taking away the wages of 900 people. What happened in Satyam's case, Raju Satyam case? 12,000 fictitious employees. So these 12,000 fictitious employees' wages were being drawn away by Mr. Raju, and that's how he made huge sums of money. And to give you an interesting anecdote, I used to live in Saket before I shifted to JNU, and there was a Safai Karamchari brigade. So I used to ask him, why don't you keep it cleaner? So one day the fellow got fed up. He said, sir, let me explain. We are 150, but only 75 come to work. 75 don't come to work. And they come on the first, they sign on the dotted line, they take 25% salary, leaving 75% for the supervisor. Out of the balance 75, 25 come half time, and they take 75% of the salary and leave 25% for him. So effectively out of 150, only 62.5 were working. And this fellow, the supervisor, was taking the salary of 87.5 people. Okay? So in 1990 when I shifted there, he used to come on a cycle. 2 years later he was coming in a motorcycle. 4 years later he was coming in a Maruti car. Okay? So he had become quite wealthy. And this fellow told me, sir, don't be fooled by his Maruti car. He owns 2 houses in Malviya Nagar worth 1 crore rupees each. Now can imagine if you are drawing 87 people's salary, how you'll make money. So in other words, this muster roll fudging is huge. Similarly, overheads, that's also huge. So for instance, if I'm a small business, I'll declare my house as the company guest house, I'll declare my telephone as the company telephone, I'll declare my servants as the company peons. If I take my family out for a 5-star hotel, I'll call that the company entertainment. If I take them to Goa for a holiday, I'll call it the company travel, and so on and so forth. So that's why this report on the small scale sector, which came out in 1996, said companies go sick, managements prosper, because managements are drawing away the funds. So overheads are overstated. So raw material, if I'm buying 1 crore worth of cotton, I'll call it 1.5 crores worth, and 50 lakhs I'll siphon out into a account. Okay. So everything is overstated. So costs are overstated. So the black income generation is undeclared revenue plus overstated costs. Okay. So that is how black incomes are typically generated in the Indian context. Now, what it means is that profits are shown to be less, but wages are shown to be higher. So the distribution in the economy, distribution is given by P divided by W, profit to wage ratio. Okay. This is my distribution. So P upon W is far more skewed because of black economy than if you look at only the white economy. And this has implications for the macroeconomics, as I will try and demonstrate. So this is it. Next is transfer incomes. There are two kinds of incomes that are generated in an economy, called factor incomes and transfer incomes. That's why you have GDP at factor cost. Okay. Now transfer incomes are where you're exchanging a property. So if I buy real estate from you, then your property comes to me and my savings go to you, no production is involved. So therefore transfer incomes are not counted in national income. So therefore real estate is not to be counted in black income generation. But the government says the biggest generator of black income is real estate. But they're completely wrong, because that's transfer income. It's only a transfer of savings and assets. It's not a generation of black income. Similarly, bribes are transfers. Similarly, the secondary stock market, suppose you buy ACC share. Now ACC doesn't get the money. Only the share is changed hands with the savings of the person who's buying. Okay. So therefore, these are all transfer activities, and transfer activities are not to be counted. So we have to be analytically very clear. Next slide, please. As to what is it that we are counting and what not being counted. So now let's get to the size of the black economy. So my study was the first time that I defined what the black economy is and then measured it. Everybody else who did it before me, they measured something and called it the black. So it's a bit like oranges and apples, because they didn't really give a definition as to what is the black economy. So first Caldor came to India in 55, 56, and he estimated the size of black economy at that time to be 4 to 5% of GDP. Then came the Vanchu Committee for 1970. It said it had become 7% of GDP. Then the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, that study estimated that the size had become 18 to 21% for 1980-81. Then S.B. Gupta, the famous monetary economist from Delhi School of Economics, he did a study for 87, he estimated it would become 57% of GDP. But there are a lot of errors in that study. So one of my students, Sonali Basu, for her MA dissertation, she re-estimated that. Okay. But there are a couple of errors left there also, which I corrected in my book. So for 1990-91, I got a figure of 35%, and for 95-96, it was 40% of GDP. So from 4 to 5% to 7% to 18 to 21% to 35 to 40%. Now my latest estimate is that it's become 62% of GDP by 2012-13. So assuming that still 62%, that amounts to, on a GDP of 150 lakh crores, 93 lakh crores. So we're talking about huge sums of money. Okay. So the question you'll ask is, how is this estimated? Now there are 4 broad methods by which the black economy is estimated. First is called the survey approach, the second is called the input-output approach, the third is called the monetarist approach, and the fourth is the fiscal approach. So all the estimates I am giving are according to the fiscal approach. Okay? And fiscal approach is analytically the correct definition. The monetarist definition is not a correct one, because they don't define, they just measure something. So therefore all the estimates I am giving are as per the fiscal approach. I don't have the time to go into the details of it. Anybody interested, you can look at my book, the Black Economy book, and it's discussed what these methods are, etc., and where the problems are. Now, all this is okay, fiscal approach, input, output, etc., but how does the layperson understand what's happening? So what I did was, in my book, I counted all the major scams that took place between 1956 and 1996. And I defined a major scam as one which appeared on the front pages of the newspaper. So, in the 50s there was one, in the 60s there was one, in the 70s there were 2, in the 80s there were 8, and between 91 and 96 there were 26. So the number of scams is growing very rapidly. And before 1990, the biggest scam was Bofors at 64 crores of rupees. Between 91 and 96, 13 out of 26 were above 1,000 crores. Okay? So the amount of money involved per scam is growing very dramatically. And the largest was the Harshad Mehta scam, the stock market scam, which the Janki Raman committee report had given as 3,128 crores. Unofficial people said it was more like 10 to 15,000 crores. But the point is, from 64 crores before 1990, you are now in between 91 and 96, 13 scams out of 26 which are above 1,000 crores. And the largest being the Harshad Mehta scam at 3,128 crores. One of my PhD students, who is a retired DRDO official, remains quite unwell. He's 82 years old, but continues to do his thesis. So I encourage him, because that's the way he keeps young. To do research is, to keep yourself young. So he's investigating the period 2005 to 2008. And he hasn't been able to complete his thesis because he's always unwell, something keeps going wrong, but he's soldiered on. So he has looked at 2005 to 2008. In this period, there are 150 scams. So now you're getting one scam per week. Okay, whereas between 91 and 96, there were 26 in 7 years. Okay, now you have 150. And now you're talking about 10,000 crores, 50,000 crores, 1 lakh crores. So the number of scams is exploding. And the amount of money involved per scam is also exploding. Okay? So that is an indication of how rapidly the black economy is growing. Okay? Now, what is the implication of this, the growth of the black economy? The implication is, okay, it doesn't matter. So there is a rate of growth of the white economy, and then there's a rate of growth of the black economy, and because black economy is increasing in size, rate of growth of black economy is greater than the rate of growth of white economy. So what is the actual economy? Actual economy is the black plus white together. Okay? So therefore the actual economy is the weighted average rate of growth between the black and the white. Alright? Now there's a fourth rate of growth which I call the potential rate of growth. So what is this potential rate of growth? From growth theory, the rate of growth of an economy is given by the investment ratio divided by the incremental capital output ratio. Okay. This is the rate of growth as per the growth theory. Now, because of the black economy, the investment ratio falls and incremental capital output ratio rises. So the rate of growth falls. Okay. Because this has come down, this has gone up, so the rate of growth falls. Now, suppose the black economy was 0, then this would rise, this would fall, and therefore the rate would go up. So if you could eliminate the black economy, your rate of growth would go up. Okay. The meaning is that investment is unproductively utilized in the economy, and that's why the rate of growth is falling. So when B is 0, then you get the potential rate of growth. So that potential rate of growth is greater than this. So that is what I have written down here, that potential rate of growth is greater than the black economy rate of growth, it is greater than the actual economy's rate of growth, and greater than the white economy's rate of growth. So when I say that black economy is bad for the economy, it is because as compared to the potential rate of growth, you are growing much less. And I've shown the gap is 5%. So from the mid-70s, when the black economy became more than 10% of GDP, you're on an average losing 5% rate of growth. If you're losing 5% rate of growth, at that point the economy is growing at 3.5%, it could have grown at 8.5%. In the last 10 years when it was growing at 7.5%, it could have grown at 12.5%. If you add 5% every year, today the economy would have been $15 trillion instead of $2.2 trillion. So it would have been the second largest economy after the US, and our per capita income instead of being $1,500 would have been $11,000. So we would have been a middle income country rather than one of the bottom 30 countries. Okay? So because of the black economy, you are missing out $13 trillion of development this year, okay? And a corresponding amount every year. So India's backwardness is linked entirely to the black economy. How much of development you are losing out? That's the next slide, please. So this graph shows, because of the black economy, we're growing along this graph. If the black economy was not there, we would have grown like this and would have been 7 times larger than what we are today. Okay. So this just captures that in a pictorial form, what I was telling you. So basically, black economy has led to underdevelopment in the economy. And if you don't understand the black economy, you cannot understand the underdevelopment of the Indian economy. Next slide, please. Okay. So the impact is massive. Okay. I've already spelled out a few of the things like these things and the share of distribution changing, etc., etc. So what are the implications of all that? And I'll only give you a select list. But otherwise, black economy affects every aspect. So first is failure of planning. So why does planning fail? Because here, as I showed in the thing, your input-output ratios, are all wrong. Because you are showing higher input and lower output. That's how you are doing under-invoicing and over-invoicing of costs and revenue. So input-output ratios are needed in your planning exercise. How do you understand it simply? You have an economy of 162, but you're planning for 100. So you're planning for the wrong amount of coal, wrong amount of energy, wrong amount of steel, wrong amount of transportation. So planning will fail. Similarly, your monetary policy fails. Why does monetary policy fail? If you take out a currency note from your pocket, it's neither colored black nor colored white. It has to circulate the black economy as well as the white economy. So you require more liquidity in the economy. So for instance, today, as now everybody knows because of demonetization, that 17.5 lakh crores was the currency in circulation. That 17.5 lakh crores of currency has to circulate the black economy as well as the white economy. So in effect, 17.5 lakh crores is not circulating 150 lakh crore, but 243 lakh crore. So when people say that India is over monetized in comparison to GDP, that's not true. Because you should compare with 243 lakh crores and not with 150 lakh crores. Because the same monetary supply is circulating the black economy and the white economy. Now why does the monetary policy fail? Because in the equations that the RBI uses, it does not bring in black economy. So therefore the velocity of circulation is incorrect. And stability properties are incorrect because the stability properties of black liquidity and white liquidity are incorrect. How to explain in simple terms? Suppose you have an onion shortage of 10%. Now black liquidity floods in and the shortage becomes 25%. So at 10% shortage, the price would have gone up by 25%. But at 25% shortage, it will shoot up 400%. Okay? So that's why onion prices shoot up even though the shortage is 10%. Okay? So black liquidity being available in the market means RBI is unable to control inflation. So RBI keeps trying to change its CRR and various other things, but the inflation doesn't come under control. And that's because it's not taking the black liquidity into account. Then development is set back. Savings and investments are affected. Why? Because savings propensity, as you know from Caldeau's function, is P upon Y SP plus W upon Y SW. So that's the saving out of profits and the savings out of wages. Okay. Now, what is the black economy doing? It's shifting national income away from wages towards profits. And the SP is higher than SW. Alright. So therefore it's shifting national income in favor of the higher savings propensity. And therefore the savings propensity rises. But investment rate falls because there's a flight of capital from the country. 10% of the black is going abroad, which is not invested here. It doesn't generate the multiplier here. So investment rate falls, savings rate rises. Okay. So it has the opposite effect on investment and savings, and that has its effects, as we said, on the rate of growth. Okay. Then fiscal policies fail. Why? Because 62% of GDP is black. Now 62% of GDP, if it had been in the tax net, you would have collected at today's tax rates 24% tax GDP ratio. Okay. So today what's the tax GDP ratio? 16.5%. If you collected the taxes from the black economy, it would have been 40.5%. So at 16.5%, we are one of the lowest tax GDP ratio in the world. At 40%, we would have been one of the highest tax GDP ratio. So large amount of resources are missed out as a result of that. So what happens as a result of this? People don't pay enough direct taxes, so your direct tax GDP ratio is only 5.5%. Okay, it used to be only 2.5% till 1997-98. Indirect taxes therefore become dominant, but indirect taxes are stagflationary, as you may have read from your Kaletsky's theory. Okay, so stagflationary component of the economy increases, and that's why you have more inflation and less growth because of the high indirect tax collection. So fiscal policies are getting affected. Then what happens is that because you're not collecting this 24.5% of tax GDP ratio, your fiscal deficit is high. Your fiscal deficit is roughly about 5%. So if you had collected this, instead of a deficit, you would have had a surplus and you would not have to borrow. What has happened to the budget in the last 25 years is that interest payment is the single largest item in the budget. Why? Because you've been borrowing a lot. Now, if you didn't have the black economy and the economy had been white, then you would have collected a lot more taxes and there would have been much less borrowing, and therefore this interest payment would not have gone out and that would have been available for development. Okay. So the entire fiscal policy problem is coming from here. then balance of payments is distorted. Why is the balance of payment distorted? Because in trade, you have under-invoicing and over-invoicing. So you under-invoice the exports and you over-invoice the imports. So imports are larger, exports are smaller, so you have a trade account deficit, you have a current account deficit as a result. Okay? And because of flight of capital, capital is leaking out of the country, so you have a problem with the capital account. So your entire balance of payment problem over the last 60 years is because of the black problem. So the flight of capital is taking place from very poor countries. Then it impacts poverty, it impacts employment, because the development is set back, so poverty continues, and policies fail. And when policy failure takes place, your poverty is affected, employment is affected, inequality is affected. Why is inequality affected? I did a simple exercise and I found that black economy in 95-96 is concentrated in the hands of 3% of the population. So at that time, black economy was 40% of GDP. So this 3% had not only the white incomes, but also the black incomes. So what was the ratio of 12:1 in the white economy between the top 3% and bottom 40%? When you add the black economy, it became 60:1. So your real inequality in the economy is coming from the black economy, not the white economy. Okay? So when my friends come from Princeton days, they say, you keep talking about poverty, where's poverty? You go to Connaught Place, you go to Nariman Point, you go to other places, people are buying fancy things all the time, you know, cars and televisions and watches and whatnot, you know. So I have to explain to him that 3% of India is 39 million people, which is like a good sized European country, and they have large black incomes out of which they spend. So in a 1.3 billion population, you have a Europe hidden, which is where the consumerism is coming from, and which is what explains the kind of disparities and the kind of consumerism that you have. So in other words, if you don't understand the black economy, you can't talk about the inequality in India also. Now inflation, why is inflation higher? Because as I said, all costs are raised. Costs are over invoiced, and in markup pricing, therefore, prices will tend to be high. So that's one. Second is indirect taxes are high, and that's stagflationary, so again prices are high. So there are several routes through which black economy leads to higher inflation. And in a very simple-minded way, when Anna Hazare and Ramdev movement was going on, people understood that what does inflation mean? Today you're buying sugar worth at 10 rupees, tomorrow you're buying at 20 rupees. So 10 rupees is going from your pocket to the businessman. Okay. So black economy also through inflation takes out the money, the income from your pocket and goes into somebody else's pocket. So that's a very simple-minded way of explaining. Next slide, please. By the way, these pictures have been put by my brother-in-law. He said your slides are very boring. So he put these pictures in, you know. He said this will make it more interesting. So that was a 27-story house of Ambani, you know, to show the kind of inequality. So it lowers the, it has microeconomic impact. So macro policies fail and micro policies also fail. Micro policies, for instance, education, health. Now in education, you must have heard of the ACER reports, the annual survey of education reports that Pratham brings out. They've been showing since 2005 that children in the 8th class, 50% of them cannot read third standard textbook, cannot do third standard writing, and cannot do third standard mathematics. So effectively, even though they are in 8th standard, but effectively they are in 3rd standard. And as a result, they will never get a good job. Okay. So you are assured of 50% poverty in the country for the next 50 years till these people go out of the job market. And that is provided you start giving good education now. So education policies fail. And as Rajiv Gandhi popularized, when you send 1 rupee from the center, only 15 paisa reaches the ground. So out of 7 schools, you can make 1 school. Or you can make the 7 schools in 7 years and not in 1 year. Okay? So education policies will not succeed. Health also similarly, the dispensaries are there, but the facilities are not there, drugs are spurious. So a study of AIMS showed that they took rifampicin sample from 7 different areas, and where 600 milligram of rifampicin was supposed to be there was not more than 300 milligram, and some of them had 0 rifampicin. That means that the patient is taking the drug, but it's not going to cure him because he needs 600 milligram, he's getting 300 milligram, or less than that. So you have drug-resistant TB growing, okay, as a result of that. Or the patient is not getting cured at all. So in other words, your health policies also fail as a result of that. It impacts elections because of political funding of elections. It impacts the party's functioning. It impacts the accountability of leadership. And above all, it impacts work ethic. So you have teachers, if they teach well in the class, then people will not come to them for tuition, so they don't teach well. So that you have to take tuition. Okay? If doctors cure you in time, then they can't charge you the fees, or they'll recommend, you know, consultants that are not needed, or recommend tests that are not needed, or lawyers who sell your case to the opposite party. chartered accountants who sign on the dotted line, a lot of chartered accountants I interviewed, they said, after all the businessman is paying me, so I sign on the dotted line. That's why in Satyam's case, how did this internationally famous chartered accountant miss out 6,000 crores worth of fixed deposit? The first principle of accounting is you should not even have a 1 paisa discrepancy. And here 6,000 crores were missed out. So it's obvious, thing. So all the professional classes shirk work in some form or the other, and that's why the work ethic is very poor. And that therefore means that laws on paper differ from what they are practiced. So we have wonderful laws against child labor, child marriage, this thing, that thing, but they're not implemented. They're implemented in default. And therefore it impacts the environment, air, water, forest, and urbanization. The nature of urbanization. In Delhi you're supposed to have 2.5-story houses, but you'll have 5-story houses and a basement. So there's no parking space, there's no water, there's less of sewage, so sewage lines get blocked, etc. So urbanization is very badly affected. Next slide, please. So how do I characterize all this? To sort of, in a sense, put it in a nutshell. So one is that black economy is like digging holes and filling them. So what is digging holes and filling them? The standard Keynesian prescription for generating employment. So you set a person to dig a hole during the day, at night you set another person to fill the hole. So next morning, you have zero output, but 2 incomes have been earned. Okay. So this is what I call activity without productivity. So there are a lot of activity in society, but productivity is very low. And that's why the incremental capital output ratio that I was talking to you in the formula rises. Because a given amount of capital does not produce the output it should produce. That's what incremental capital output ratio is. So what happens? You have a road, you make a road, you don't put enough tar in it, so the rains come, it gets washed away. So you're repairing the same road rather than building new roads. You go to an office, the Saab is sitting there, there's crowd milling outside because he's not doing the work. If he does the work in time, you'd not bribe him. So to get the bribe, he'd not do the work in time. You go to the court, there are 5 people from one side, 5 from the other side. One side is interested in delay. So they'll say, sir, my senior has gone to Allahabad High Court. He'll come after 3 months. So cases that should be sorted out in 3 months, like the 12-6 cases, will take 5 years. Cases like this check bouncing case under section 138, they will take 3 to 4 years. Earlier they used to be sorted out in 3 months. So therefore you have 3.5 crore cases pending in the court. Because the judges are not making decisions. They're allowing time to just pass. And a lot of litigants' time is therefore wasted. Similarly, you go to other people and they are wasting time. So in other words, this digging holes and filling holes means that work that should be done is not getting done. Okay? And therefore the incremental capital output ratio does. That is the reason why that incremental capital output ratio in that formula that I wrote earlier was there. Now the second is that the usual is the unusual and the unusual is the usual. That which should happen does not happen. That which should not happen keeps happening. So as a result, you should get clean water in your taps, but you get dirty water, so everybody has to carry bottles of water. You should get 220 volt electricity, you'll get 170 or 270 or equipment will burn out. So you have to have then voltage stabilizers and extra circuits, so extra capital costs come. And what happens is that when things don't work in so many places, you get fed up. So you say, let me join in. So this is what alienation. So people get alienated and join in rather than resisting it. So resistance to the black economy has slowly declined over the last many years. And as a result of all that, there's growing criminalization in society. So criminal activities have increased in society. So one statistic that I got was that in 1947, when India became free, there was X number of policemen. By 1997, the 50th year of independence, we had to have 150 ex-policemen. The police force size increased by 150 times. So the British governed us with a 150 times smaller police force than we were governing in 1997, the 50th year. And that's because criminality and illegality has grown by leaps and bounds in the Indian economy. And that therefore leads to a breakdown of trust, which means costs increase. Because trust is very important. If trust is there, costs remain low. When trust begins to break down, costs rise. Next slide, please. Okay. So much is wrong. We want to resolve it. So we have to identify the correct cause. So in the literature, you have high tax rates or controls as the cause given. That is, you have very high tax rates, people don't want to pay. That's one hypothesis. But that is patently false because in 1971, when Mrs. Gandhi was the finance minister, the highest marginal tax rate was 97.5%. Okay. And with wealth tax of 2%, on an income of 15 lakh, 1 rupee, you have to pay on the marginal 1 rupee 2 paisa as tax. Okay? So the tax rate became 102% along with wealth tax. And that time, Manchu committee estimated the size of black economy to be 7% of GDP. Now the tax rate is down to 30%, and the black economy has gone up to 62%. So systematically, the tax rates have come down, but black income generation has continued to grow. Okay? So that is not the direct cause that tax rates are high. In fact, India has one of the lowest tax GDP ratio, as I was telling you. Second is controls. So people say license, permit, quota Raj, inspector Raj, and so on and so forth. But when you say control is the cause of black income generation, what you're saying, the law is its own cause of violation. So if you have a red light, people are jumping the red light. So can we say red light is the cause of why people are jumping it? Indeed not. If you get stopped by a policeman at the red light, then is the policeman the reason why you're bribing him? No, you committed an illegality, therefore he's catching you, and then you want to get away, so you bribe him. So a control or a law cannot be its own cause of violation. The cause of violation is the illegality that you commit in that particular law. Okay? So source, I call control the source, and the cause is the illegality. So basically it's illegality in taxation, illegality in various forms of controls that are the cause of black income generation. Now, if black economy is 62% of GDP, it means 62% of the economic activity has illegality associated with it. That means it's systematic. It's not anecdotal. It's not that one day I evade tax, the next day I don't evade tax. I set up a system. So in the case of the sugar industry, I found that from the time when the sugarcane comes in, how you underweigh it, and then when it's crushed and the sugarcane juice is extracted, how you show lower sugarcane juice recovery. Then when sugarcane juice is boiled and the sugar is made, then you show less of sugar manufacture. Then when it goes out of the factory gate, then the accounts are fixed so that you show under invoicing of the sugar. So everything is fixed before production starts. Okay. Now after that, whether you have 90% tax rate or 10% tax rate, I'll evade that because I've got a system. And in that system, I know how much to bribe the excise fellow, how much to buy the sales tax fellow, how much to buy the local police fellow, the local politician. So that's why black economy is systematic and systemic. It works like a system. So in Delhi, where there's so much encroachment, I found the system is that if suppose in a DDA flat you want to do some extra construction, immediately as soon as bricks and cement and sand comes, the local Safai Karamchari will inform the DDA fellow, the police and the MCD. Next day they'll come and they'll settle with you that you give me this much money and you can do the construction. Okay? So it works as a system. On the pavements where the encroachment is there, you can't encroach 1 square yard of land without the policeman and the DDA fellow coming and taking his hafta. Okay? So it's a very systematic thing. It's not as if you can just go and open a, some sort of redi patri wala or khomcha, just like that. They all pay, a hafta to the police. So police is involved and the local politician is involved. So for black economy to be systematic and systemic, it means the state apparatus has to be a party to it. So that means the policy maker, the implementer, which is the executive, and the businessman, they together, all three of them form a triad which generates the black income. So this executive consists of the police, the bureaucracy, and the judiciary. So I used to go and sit in Tisdari court to observe, and for everything you have to make a payment. For getting a date, for getting file processor, for getting a bailiff, for everything there are payments fixed. But you can't talk about judicial corruption because of contempt of court. So therefore people don't talk, but there's massive corruption in all the courts. Okay? So this triad is what is running the black economy. And this triad suits everybody. Why does it suit everybody? Because the businessman needs to manipulate policy. So if he is close to some politician and to executive, then he can manipulate policy. And the politician and the executive need to invest their black. So the businessman invests the black for them. So it's a very mutually convenient thing for the triad to exist. And the criminal has entered the nexus. After 1983, by 1983, D.V. Kumar, who was the customs intelligence chief, he has a book in 1990 where he showed that Haji Mastan and other big smugglers were given amnesty in 1983. And they started entering politics directly. Till 1983, the criminal used to support the politician from outside an election. But after 1983, they started entering directly. So that's why either the businessman is a criminal or the politician has a criminal background. And that's why today, large number of legislators in the legislature have a criminal background. And you know the famous story of Akhilesh Yadav when he ascended to power, 5 years back. First he made this fellow Raja Bhaiya the education minister. And there's a huge hue and cry, you can't have a criminal as the education minister. So he made him jail in charge. Now you can imagine the plight of the jails. Okay? So in other words, you see a large number of legislators, have criminal background because they're coming from there. And not to be quoted outside ever, I interviewed one former Home Secretary. So he said every additional police station in Delhi means more crime because the post of the SHO is auctioned. Okay? And therefore he fixes a hafta for every beat constable. So you open another new post and he has to also collect hafta. So therefore every additional police post has meant more crime in Delhi. So rather than sorting out, it means more crime. So the policemen are in league with the pickpockets and with the car thieves and with the others in their area. So to give you another anecdotal thing, my wife is a famous journalist. Now once she had gone to drop me at the railway station, and like the usual trick, somebody knocked at the door and said, "Ma'am, you dropped some change." She looked down from the other side, they opened the gate and ran away with her purse. But she being a bold lady journalist, she immediately went to the police. She complained and called up the minister and the PMO, who was a good friend. And by 6 o'clock in the morning, a phone call came saying, "Ma'am, we have found your purse." Where was it? In Shalimar Bagh, 25 kilometers from JNU. So she went there and there was a ragamuffin fellow, said, "Ma'am, I was walking in the morning and I saw your bag lying there." So I got the number, I called you. Okay? But the point is, policemen at the railway station know who are the gang of thieves and pickpockets, etc. working there. Okay? So the police has a very close interconnection with the criminals, and that's why it's tried in the region. Next slide, please. So the question is how to remedy the situation. We've had 40 committees and commissions since 1948, which have gone into the different aspects of the black code. Okay? So, in 48 there's a committee, then Caldor came in 55, 56, then you had the Vanchu committee, Santhanam committee in 64, then the Vanchu committee in 1970, then the Dagli committee, LK Jha committee, and so on and so forth. And the most recent being the 3 committees that have come, which looked into it, but those reports have not been published. Okay? They made thousands of suggestions, and hundreds have been implemented. So for instance, as I said, demonetization, which I'll come back to, but theoretically demonetization is not correct. In 1978, demonetization was done. 165 crores worth of high denomination currency notes were there. 135 crores came back, but because it was 0.6% of the currency in circulation at that point, it did not affect the black market. Okay? Nor is it affecting it now, but I'll explain that later. Voluntary disclosure schemes, 6 times voluntary disclosure schemes have been brought because people said at least get it for development purposes. But the CAG report on the 1997 scheme suggests that this is a disastrous scheme. Why? Because it said people have become habitual tax offenders. Those who declared the money in the earlier 5 schemes also are declaring in the 6th scheme. The reason is very simple. If I know a scheme is coming, I'll generate more black income today and whiten it when the scheme comes. So more and more black income generation takes place. Second thing they said is honest people are turning dishonest. Why? Because if you're an honest guy paying taxes, your capital is rising less. You're a dishonest guy, your capital is rising fast. So the honest fellow after a while says, let me also turn dishonest. So therefore this voluntary disclosure scheme does not work. And theoretically people have shown why it does not work. Then we've decreased tax rates, we've reduced controls and regulations post 1991, MRTP gone, FERA gone, small scale reservation gone, licensing gone, planning diluted, etc., etc. But it hasn't had an effect. People think technology is a solution. The technology can be used. But look at PAN cards. People have multiple PAN cards. So you can divide up your income between various PAN cards. Then Demat accounts in Axis Bank, one guy was found to have 10,000 Demat accounts. Not 1, not 10, not 500, but 10,000 accounts. Obviously there's a connivance with the police with the bankers. And today also you find connivance with the bankers. People are converting their old notes into new notes. So there's a lot of give. So unless the human element is there, the human element is right, you will continue to have this black income generation. Technology by itself doesn't solve it. It may change the form of black income generation. Okay? But black income generation continue with new technology. So today you have phishing scams and various other electronic based scams which are taking place. Then problem is not just economic or technical, but political. And that's where the trial is important. Next slide please. Okay, so remedies. Remedies, there are no instant remedies. We have tried, we understand all the committee reports that have come. We know what the analysis of the balance of payment is, of the fiscal, of this and that. We know everything technically. But the problem is political, it's not technical. So you have to have short-term solutions, medium-run solutions, and long-run solutions. Long-run solutions require to change the politics. You have to make your politics accountable. If your politics is not accountable, as long as Lalu Yadav getting caught in Chara Ghotala can make his wife the chief minister, and then she wins the election, he doesn't care. You can catch Mayawati, she says, I win, so it doesn't matter. Okay? So therefore, in a sense, politics has got neutralized. So you go to Punjab, Amrinder Singh comes to power, catches Badal. Badal comes to power, catches Amrinder Singh. You go to Tamil Nadu, DMK comes to power, catches Anna DMK. Anna DMK comes to power, catches DMK. Okay? So all political parties are there. So in other words, you require long-term reform of your politics. You have to have good parties that are accountable. So RTI is crucial. You know, without RTI, without electoral reform, without party reform, this is not going to work. So long-term, but in the short term, you can do a few things. Say for instance, Hawala. Hawala houses are tracked on a daily basis by the intelligence agencies. So you can catch people. You can close Hawala in 5 minutes if the Prime Minister wants. But remember in 1991 when the Jain Hawala case came, 52 politicians' names came out and Narasimha Rao tried to act, and then after he retired, he had court cases going on against him till he died. Okay? So even a Prime Minister doesn't dare to actually act because all the top names will come out. So for instance in this fellow Hassan Ali case in 2007, on the day his disc was captured, there was $8.5 billion in the UBS account. When in 2011, Pranab Mukherjee had a press conference, he said only $11,000 is there because you allowed him to go scot-free. Because at the click of a mouse, you can transfer funds. Okay. So you have to catch people immediately. So Hawala can be stopped provided the Prime Minister has the political will to do that because it's tracked. Then banking secrecy. In the HSBC case, you know, HSBC was caught because it was doing Hawala between Delhi and Zurich. So all private multinational banks and Indian banks, okay, like ICICI, etc., they're all in the name of high net worth individuals, they're allowing Hawala to take place. Okay? So banking secrecy can be affected and this Hawala would stop. And Hawala makes it easier to generate black income and transfer it. Lokpal bill was signed, okay, but Lokpal is not there. RTI, they're trying to dilute RTI. You know, political parties, PM, Chief Justice, their officers should also be under it, but they're not under it. Whistleblowers bill, they're trying to dilute it, but whistleblowers are important because they are the ones who've been revealing the scams, but they're trying to dilute that. Many whistleblowers have been killed or they're under death threat, so whistleblower bill needs to be strengthened. So in the short run, you can do many. In the medium run and the long run. Next slide, please. Okay. So what needs to be done is to bring about accountability at all levels, which means end secrecy and bring about transparency. And corporate accountability is very crucial. Satyam's case shows why corporate accountability. You had the top people in the board of directors, former cabinet secretary and IBS dean of faculty, etc., etc. They were all there, but didn't work. So corporate accountability requires accountability of the accountants and board of directors. RTI is very crucial. Lokpal is very crucial, but only for the top echelons. You can't have a Lokpal for everybody because then you'll have a parallel bureaucracy which will get as corrupted. So Lokpal is very this thing. Judicial accountability is very crucial. And police and bureaucratic accountability is crucial, and then reforms of the taxation policy. Next slide, please. Okay, so recently many steps have been taken by the government. So one is to bring black wealth from abroad. So there's a bill for that. But the point is only 10% is going abroad, 90% is remaining here. And that percent is hard to tackle because when the money goes out, it goes out through a process called layering. So what is layering? There are 90 tax havens in the world. And the British started setting up these tax havens soon after India became independent because they used to get capital from India. Now through tax havens they get capital. So Britain has the largest number of tax havens. But even US, Delaware is a tax haven where all the insurance companies register. So many of these OECD countries also have tax havens in them. So like Austria is a tax haven, Malaysia is a tax haven, like that. So there are 90 tax havens. So what do I do if I have to take money out? I will take it out, say from here to St. Lucia, to a company. Then I close that company and take it out to St. Helens. From St. Helens, I take it out to Panama. From Panama, I take it out to Cayman Island. Cayman Island, I take it to Jersey. And from Jersey, I'll bring it into Swiss. So when you ask Swiss government, how much money does Arun Kumar have? They say Arun Kumar doesn't have an account. Because my money has moved from Jersey Island to Swiss account. So that's counted as British money. So who has the largest amount of money in the Swiss banks? The British. Because they own the largest number of tax havens. So money is routed through them. So Russians will route it through there, the Chinese will route it through there, Indians will route it through there, Ukrainians will route it there. So the largest amount of money in Swiss bank accounts is from the British. And when you ask the Swiss government, they say only now 8,000, earlier it was 14,000 crores of money that is from India. Okay? And that's because that's a direct money going from India, not the black money that has gone in through a variety of means. Okay? So you have to tackle it here, you can't tackle it here. Government says we have got double taxation avoidance agreement with 100 countries, tax information exchange countries, agreements with 37 countries, but government is fooling us. Because what is double taxation avoidance agreement? It is about my white income, not black income. If I have an income in Switzerland, it should not be taxed in Switzerland and India both. It should be taxed only in one. That's why it's called double taxation avoidance agreement. It should be taxed only in one place. But if I have not declared the income in Switzerland or in India, it's taxed neither there nor here. So DTAA is about white income, not black income. Okay. Because black income is not declared. It's routed through different mechanisms. Similarly, tax information exchange treaties, that's also about declared income, not about the undeclared income. So that will not solve the problem. Foreign money bill does not solve the problem because there's no provision to track people. How do you do this layering process? How do you undo the layering process? So you can't track it there. Gold monetization scheme was announced, but what has the gold monetization scheme done? It has introduced gold coins worth 12,000, 26,000 and 52,000. So now you don't have to carry a huge amount of currency. You can just carry a few gold coins. So that will further propagate the black income generation. Then the income declaration scheme was there till 30th September. That also did not get much money because people now know how to generate black income and not get caught. Technology is a limited solution and information is private, not public. So the same corrupt politicians, the bureaucrats, the judges, the police, they're using all these mechanisms. They know how black is generated, but that's not a public information to be acted on, that's a private information. So information has to turn public for action to take place. Okay? If it is not that, then nothing will happen. Next slide, please. So, in conclusion, black economy, the most important problem is social, political and economic. It raises costs everywhere and leads to inefficiency. It's a political problem and not only economic or technical. And tackling it is a game changer because it's a positive sum game. You know, if the economy, the black economy had been tackled, and Indian economy had been 7 times larger, Mr. Ambani would have been, instead of $22 billion, $150 billion, and he would be richer than Mr. Slim or Mr. Bill Gates. Okay? So it's a positive sum game because everybody grows if the economy is 7 times larger, then the black money walas also grow and the non-black money walas also grow. So it's a positive business. And has to be tackled collectively, not individually. And we can't depend on a benevolent dictator because Rajiv Gandhi came in with the promise of government that works, clean government, India would be a superpower by 2001, and then he got embroiled in corruption. And that's the story everywhere. So Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, when the government fell, was reputed to have $70 billion. You know, Imelda Marcos, her husband, the Bacha of Nigeria, you know, they're all billions of dollars spirited out of the country. So therefore a benevolent dictator is not there. They will indulge in corruption, power gets to the head, and the problem comes. So, I'll close before I talk about the demonetization thing, and then I'll talk about the demonetization. That you see, in Bali, Ramayana is enacted. So, Hindu island, Bali is a Hindu island, thousands of miles away from here. So they also enact the Ramayana. In our Ramayana, Ram shoots the arrow and Ravan dies. So it's a one-shot victory of good over evil. But there, it's enacted by men in check lunges. So black and white, that means the coexistence of the good and the evil. And there Ram shoots the arrow, Ravan falls, next moment he gets up, brushes himself and starts fighting again. So you can't have a one-shot victory. It's a constant battle. So the battle is in our minds, you know. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I do the right thing or the wrong thing? If society is doing more of the right thing, I'll swing in that direction. If society is doing more of the wrong thing, I'll swing in that direction. So basically the fight against black economy is not a one-shot fight. And that brings us to the question of demonetization, because the government has presented this as a one-shot fight. Okay? Why? Because of the mistaken notion that cash is black. You see, cash is not black. That's the first thing you have to realize. Why? Because first you earn an income. Out of that income, you consume a part and save the rest. Savings, then you invest, and that becomes your wealth. Okay? So wealth is held in a portfolio of assets. So for instance, you'll have real estate, you'll have gold, you'll have jewelry, you'll have it in your industry, you'll have inventories of various kinds, and a part is cash. So of the 93 lakh crores of black income generated this year, you've accumulated over the last 15, 20 years your wealth, so that will be at least 3 to 4 times that much amount. So minimum 300 lakh crores of wealth. Out of that, the cash component is 3 lakh crores. So if you are able to demobilize 3 lakh crores, you have demobilized 1% of the black wealth, but none of the black income. Because black income generation is a process. So if I am a teacher and I do tuition and I earn black income, I'll continue to do that. If I'm a doctor and I'm giving wrong tests, etc., I'll continue to do that. If I'm a narcotic drug dealer, I'll continue to do that. So in other words, the black income generation process continues, and squeezing out cash does not stop that from happening. So it doesn't squeeze out the black income generation process, and at best squeezes out 1% of the black wealth. But it doesn't squeeze out even 1% of the black wealth, because the black money wallahs are very clever. They've already divided up their money between Jan Dhan accounts and between payment of wages to their workers, etc. So like one businessman friend told me, he had 20 crores and he gave 4 months advance salary to his workers. Okay? So his money got distributed. Similarly, Jan Dhan accounts have been used. Similarly, people have bought gold in back date. People have bought land in back date. Okay? And businessmen are very clever. So in 1984, when we were doing the NIPFP study, it was a CBDT study. So we were interviewing various people. So we interviewed revenue intelligence people also. And I asked them that when you do raids, don't you catch from builders and brokers a lot of cash? And they said, yes, of course we catch 5 crores, 3 crores, 10 crores. At that time, 3 crores to 5 crores, 10 crores were like 30 crores, 50 crores, 100 crores of today. And so then I said, what happened? They said, within 3 days, they're able to explain that as working capital. That this has come from here, this has come from here, this is used for this is used for this, and that's it. Okay? So businessmen can always show working capital. So therefore, in a sense, even this 3 lakh crores, which would be the black cash in the economy, I mean, think about it this way, there's 15.5 lakh crores worth 1,500 rupee notes. Of that, at least 60% would be held by businesses, so that's about 9 plus lakh crores. So roughly 6 lakh crores would be with households. Out of that, about half would be in black and half would be white, because you need white for your day-to-day living expenses also. So at best, you'll have 3 lakh crores as black cash. And of that also, it appears that only 30, 40, 50,000 crores may not come back. But bulk of it actually would come back. So in effect, what has happened is that black income generation is not stopped. Black wealth is only affected to a very small extent, but its impact on the main economy is very serious. What is its impact on the main economy? We have a large unorganized sector which produces 45% of the output, and 94% of the employment is in the unorganized sector. And they operate on cash because they work at a very small level. So they buy raw material in cash, they pay wages in cash, they sell in cash, and they buy in cash. Now, as soon as cash shortage takes place, it has an impact. So as I've been arguing, if you take away 85% of blood from somebody's body and replace 5% every week, that body will collapse, because body will not have oxygen. So money also plays the same role. It circulates the economy. So you have to go and buy this pen, so you pay to the retailer, retailer pays to the wholesaler, wholesaler pays to the producer, producer pays to the worker, and the worker buys the pen. So money is circulating the income generation process in the economy through transactions. When money becomes short, transactions collapse. So that's what's happening in the unorganized sector, which is dependent on cash. Transactions are immediately collapsed. And that's why production has become very difficult in the unorganized sector. That immediately reacts on the organized sector also, because in the organized sector, people can use checks, people can use banks, and so on. But demand falls for the organized sector also, because these people buy some amount of organized sector product also. Secondly, even well-off section people like us, we have postponed demand. Why? Because there's a discretionary demand. If I want to buy a shirt, I can buy it 3 months later, because today there's a shortage of cash. If I want to change my mobile phone, I can do it 6 months later. So discretionary demand has been postponed. So to give an example, one of my class fellows is a well-to-do businessman. He said, I used to keep 6 lakh rupees of cash at home. Now I have to return all that, but I need that for health reasons and this thing and that thing. So my first priority is my 2 daughters-in-law, they go and stand in bank queues every day. We have 9 accounts and we are collecting the 6 lakh rupees again. So I have managed to do that. Therefore, I have cut down my daily expense by 70%. I have told my family, only essentials have to be spent on, nothing else. Only food and such things and nothing else. So demand even from the well-off sections has fallen. And that's why for the first time in the last 25 years, demand for luxury cars has fallen. Audis, Mercedes-Benz, etc. These are people who don't have shortage of money. They have bank accounts, and you never bought an Audi or a Mercedes-Benz by paying cash. You had to pay in check. Okay, so they have also this thing. So first time, the luxury car market is also facing a problem. Then small businessmen, the professionals. So my architect had come today in the morning. He said my business has gone for a 6 in the last 2 months. I have no business left. And his contractor, the fellow, the contractor he was using, he was saying my contractor is also sitting idle as a result. So a lot of the unorganized sector, professionals, organized sector demand is falling. Now what is the consequence of that? Consequences, production will fall, as some of the reports are suggesting. And as production falls, profitability falls. Capacity utilization falls. And when capacity utilization falls, investment slow down. Already industry was running at 75% capacity utilization, it has probably come down to around 50%. So at 50% capacity utilization, you don't make investment. So I was on one of the programs, this India Today program, and this fellow Shah was there from Kotak Mahindra. And he was saying they're only looking at month to month. So I said, does that mean therefore you're not investing? He says, how can we invest? Month to month means I'm not sure about what's going to happen next month. Investment means I have to take a long-term view, and I can't take a long-term view because I don't know what's going to happen. So investment has fallen. So CMI report shows that investment, which was already falling before October, has fallen further. So investment has fallen, profitability has fallen, and your employment has fallen. Okay, that reacts back on the banks. Banks, as it is, were under pressure because they were getting a lot of money on which they have to pay interest, but they have no time to lend. So their costs will rise because they'll have to pay interest without an earning. Their costs have also risen because of the fact that ATM machines have to be recalibrated and various other, the people are working overtime, etc. So banking profitability is going to be hit. Banking profitability is further going to be hit because if industry is finding profitability declining, they'll not be able to repay. So NPAs, which were already high, will increase. Agriculturists are not finding enough money for their produce, so they will also slow down their repayment. So banking will be in trouble. Now all this put together, banking in trouble, inability to loan out, profits falling, investments falling, unemployment rising, this is precisely what a recession is. So the economy has entered a recessionary phase now. Now once you enter a recessionary phase, then it has long-term consequences. So for instance, from the 2007-8 global crisis, the US and the Japanese and the European economies have only now recovered in the last 1.5 years. So there will be a 6 to 7 years effect of the recessionary phase that started in the global economy. Now it's true that this is not the same thing as a global recession. It's a recession in the Indian economy. But nonetheless, to get out of the recession means expectations have to change. And that expectation change takes time. People are saying that suppose all the 15.5 lakh crore rupee doesn't come back. Suppose 3 lakh crore doesn't come back. Then the government would get a 3 lakh crore dividend from the RBI, which then it can use for the pro-poor program. And that's what I think may have been there in Mr. Modi's mind, because he thought that he'd be like a permanent hero for the poor. That I'm getting from those who are corrupt and I'm giving it to the poor. That is not going to happen because most of the money has come back. But there's something further. People are hoarding money. People don't depend on banks now. The credibility of banks has gone down. My money is sitting there, I'm not able to withdraw it. So hoarding is taking place. And when hoarding takes place, then you'll have to print more than 15.44 lakh crores of money. You may have to print 20 lakh crores. So instead of the RBI having a surplus, it could have a deficit. If it has a deficit, there are other consequences. People say that 15.44 lakh crores, suppose most of it has come back, so banks are flush with funds. But those are not the bank's funds. People are wanting to withdraw it, so it's not going to last there. As long as the currency shortage goes, that funds will go out. But even if you assume that there is extra fund, people say, okay, then interest rates can be dropped, and therefore investment would revive. Would that happen? Indeed not, because there's massive capacity underutilization. When there's capacity underutilization, you don't invest. So demand for investment is going to fall. And demand for credit is already been falling before October. So demand for credit has fallen further. So even if you cut interest rates, you will not be able to get a boost in investment. That is precisely what happened in 2007-8 crisis also. Interest rates in Europe, in Japan and in the US dropped to zero. In Japan they were negative and investment was not reviving. Why? Because demand was not there. So demand is crucial. Simply interest rate cut by itself will not do it. So in other words, if you sum up, okay, one more thing. The currency shortage, how long could it last? It could last at least 8 to 10 months. Because you don't keep paper and ink enough for printing 15 years supply of paper. You keep it for 4 months, 5 months and you keep replenishing it. So ink has been tendered, paper has been tendered now, and that will take time to come. Then you're printing small denomination currency note. So as compared to 1,000 rupees, if you have to print 100 rupee, it will take maybe not 10 times, at least 6-7 times more effort. If you print 10 rupee notes, instead of 100 times, it will make take 50 times more effort. So printing small denomination currency note will mean it will take longer to fulfill the currency requirement. Okay? So in other words, this currency shortage is likely to continue for not less than 8 to 10 months. And if the government decides that they are not going to print all the 15.44 lakh crores worth of currency, then the shortage mentality will continue. And if shortage mentality continues, then hoarding will increase. And therefore that would be counterproductive. So whatever the demand for currency, the government would do better to keep replacing it rather than try to not replace it. Okay? Because that will have other deleterious effects. So in other words, those who did not generate black incomes, they had to stand in the queues. And those who were generating the black income, they got away by manipulating the banking system and they got the money. So government therefore realized black economy is not getting affected. So the main aim of the move was to check the black income generation process. This other thing about counterfeit currency or about this terrorist financing, those are small things. And the government realizes those are not really the big things. Because counterfeit currency was supposed to be 400 crores. Suppose it was not 400 crores, suppose 10,000 crores. Now 10,000 crores and 17.5 lakh crores is nothing. And terrorist financing can be only done once with counterfeit currency. If I'm a counterfeiter, I give it in the market, I get money, and then it's circulating in the market, I don't get anything further from it. So I have to keep on printing new counterfeit currencies. Okay? So that has to be stopped, rather than just this demobilization of the counterfeit which is already circulating. But their state actors are involved, and they'll continue to print currency. So that you cannot stop. So therefore, those are side issues. The real issue was curbing the black economy, and that's where the government miscalculated that black cash means black economy. Black cash is only 1% of black wealth, and that's a big miscalculation. So how do they get out? So they change the goalpost. First they say cashless economy. Then they realize you can't go cashless so quickly, so less cash economy. And then from less cash also, that's also going to be difficult. So then you say they are conducting raids on people because people are converting their old currency into new currency, etc., etc. But these steps you could have taken independent of demonetization. You didn't need demonetization to go towards a less cash economy or a cashless economy or to do raids to catch hold of people generating black income. So in other words, they got trapped and then they started changing the goalpost. But let me say politically, Mr. Modi's credibility is very high. So people still think that he's doing something against the black money wala, and that it will benefit. But as time has gone by, 50 days and beyond, people now are getting worried because they are unemployed. There are many reports saying that, like recently the report that in Chhattisgarh, farmers came out and distributed 1,000 kilograms of vegetables free. Because they said, if we take it back, we spend more money on the transportation and we're not getting a price in the market. So they just distributed free. Same report as in Madurai, same report came from Tamil Nadu that they gave tomatoes free. So farmers are in deep crisis, small-scale sectors in deep crisis, unorganized sectors in crisis, and that crisis is not going to go away soon. So therefore, there may be anger which may build up slowly. Okay? But at the moment, Mr. Modi's credibility is keeping him afloat. People have not reacted the way people thought they would react when they lose employment, they lose income, etc. So it's a political move at the end of the day, but how far it will pay dividends is not very clear. Thank you for your patience.
Start with questions. Please raise your hand. Wait for your turn.
My question is, which is more inflationary for a society? Cash with people or cash with bank? And my second question is that many people are saying that governments are interested of loans of many people businessmen. But some people are saying that the loans have not been written off, but they have been transferred to a different amount. What does writing loan actually do? And my third question is,
cash is not really a reason for inflation. The demand of the economy. And if the demand is in excess of the supply, then you have an inflation. Cash by itself is only facilitating transactions. That is not necessarily less cash in the bank. See, money supply doesn't mean cash flow. Money supply M0, M1, M2, M3, they're different measures. So you have banks in the bank, you have time deposits and fixed deposits. So different measures measure it differently. So M0 is usually speaking cash. M3 is bank account, fixed deposits and cash. So different kinds of distribution. But the basic thing is the money supply is reacting to inflation. So like people say, why is there such a large 86% of currency in high denomination currency note? That's because of ease that it allows. If you have to carry, you're buying something, you have to carry it in 10 rupee notes. So you have to carry this much notes to pay. So therefore it's ease. So like in Venezuela, at the moment people have to carry box full of cash to buy the daily bread, etc. So therefore then you monetize the currency. So when they tried that in Venezuela last month, there's riots. Because they said high denomination currency note went out, suddenly there were riots. So inflation, when it takes place, it requires more of currency. So that works the other way around. Rather than saying, see, it's not like you're just giving cash to everybody. If you're just giving cash to everybody, then the transactions will, motive will come in, and then the price will rise. But you're giving cash only in relationship to some work that is being done. So if the government is giving money in MGNREBA, then it's for certain work that is being done. So GDP also rises, and the amount of cash also rises, the balance remains. So it's not because of the cash that the inflation is there. Because inflation is there, you need more currency.
The second question was about right.
You mean these NPAs?
Yeah.
So NPAs basically have nothing to do with that. Okay, NPAs are because you are unable to repay the loan. Okay, there are different categories of that. Okay, so if you are unable to repay the loan, then what happens is in the banks there are bad loans that are carried forward. When you write it off, then at least it's off the balance sheet. So the banks then will pass it on to somebody else who will then recover it. But if it's off the balance sheet improves. So it's basically a device to do that. But people are very angry. They say when the farmers, you write off the loans for farmers, then it's considered very populist. When you write it off for the big businessmen, then you consider it to be proper. So that's a different controversy than this demonetization or this black bottom controversy.
And sir, I want to know that is there any law for those companies which are not registered with SEBI but are investing in India through participatory notes?
No, participatory note is a different route. You see, what happens is that when companies are bringing in their foreign institutional investor funds, etc., participatory note route gives you one level of secrecy. So you don't know who the real person is. And those are bringing their black money through what's called round tripping. Okay? They use the participatory note route to hide the fact that they are who they are. Okay? So that they can then get an anonymity and they can escape it. But in between, participatory note route was not allowed. But then the 2007 crisis came, the financial crisis came, then government immediately allowed the participatory note route. But it should not allow because it enables the black money wallahs to take the money out and bring it back. So it's like a voluntary disclosure scheme.
Like many say that India was not affected that bad in 2000 due to the 2008 crisis only because of the black money which was in place
In circulation.
What's your take on this?
My take is not because of the black economy. What happened was that India had a fiscal deficit of 3% of GDP by 2007. That was allowed to rise to 12%. And bulk of that was in rural areas which generated massive demand. Okay? So you had the loan waiver of 70,000 crore, you had the MGNREGA scheme, you had the this midday meal scheme, and so on. So roughly 2.5 lakh crores of demand was pumped into the rural area. That's why your rate of growth fell, but remained at 5%, whereas other places it fell and became negative. But remember, at that time, every country went in for a high fiscal deficit. USA went from 3% to 12%, Britain went in for that. China started a $600 billion rural development program, rural infrastructure program. So every country tried to prevent the demand from declining by generating a huge fiscal deficit. Okay? So fiscal deficit was there. Now note, why did Satyam get caught? Raju got caught with these 6,000 crore fictitious deposits because he could not bring his black from abroad. Because you see the global markets collapsed, his money got stuck. If his money had not got stuck, he would have brought it back and the books would have been balanced. And he, note in his case, he admitted this. Before SEBI forced him, he admitted that he had cooked up the books. Okay? And that is because he realized the game was up. If he could have brought the money back, Nothing would happen. So black prices also collapse. So stock market collapse, real estate market collapse. So the black actually did not prevent the thing. The black markets also collapsed. Okay. But India escaped and China escaped. We didn't have negative growth because both of us boosted demand dramatically by pumping in purchasing power into rural areas. If we had pumped in purchasing power into the urban areas, a lot of it would have leaked out through purchase of luxury goods. In rural areas, it tends to stay there and therefore boost the economy.
Any other questions?
So, what do you think about disincentivizing creation of black income, like by maybe very low income tax rates and maybe like higher indirect taxes, so that you can compensate for the loss of revenue and income tax? I mean, I believe that probably a lot of people are not paying income taxes. That is also the cause that that is resulting in lower tax revenues in other forms of tax, because of, as you said, that people don't invoice. There's under invoicing. So obviously the other tax revenues are also getting affected because of
So actually it begins with indirect taxes. So you see, first, suppose you produce sugar. When it goes over the factory gate, you have to pay excise duty. So you don't want to pay excise duty. So when you don't pay excise duty, you under invoice. Then you have to pay lower sales tax also. Then you have to pay lower octroi also. Then you have to show lower corporate profit also. And therefore you pay less income tax. So it all begins from indirect taxes. Once you escape an indirect tax, it has to go all the way up to direct tax. So the evasion begins from indirect taxes. If you have high indirect taxes, and if your hypothesis of high tax rate is correct, then you begin by evading them. So it won't solve the problem. And in India, we have reduced the direct taxes rates, as I said, from 97.5% down to 30%. Then the black income generation was 7%, today is 62%. Okay? So tax rates are not the cause. Okay? In Sweden, in 1985, you had the highest tax rate of 85%. And black economy is only 1%. Even now, the tax rates are 65% and black economy is only 1%. So tax rates in Sweden, in New Zealand, or in the US, if you take central, states and local bodies, tax rate highest is 50%, much higher than in India. Okay? And people pay. See, the reason is very simple. Tax is not something that you eat. What do you do with tax? You spend it in the economy, right? So you spend it on education, on infrastructure, on defense, on social security. If you are satisfied that you're getting your money's worth, then you pay the taxes. If you feel that you're not getting your money's worth, is being wasted, then you won't pay the taxes. So in India, everybody has a sense of social injustice. The rich guy, Mr. Ambani, also feels there's injustice, and the pavement dweller also feels there's injustice. So we have a deep sense of social injustice, that policies are wrong. So that's why we don't voluntarily want to pay. The fixed income people like us, we say the businessman doesn't pay. Okay, so why should we pay? So we do tuition and won't declare that income. Okay, so in other words, everybody, and by the way, middle class doesn't pay much tax. If you calculate your own average tax rate, it would be 7, 8, 9%. Okay, so it's not a high tax rate, but we still evade even that little bit. Okay, so tax rate is not the cause. Cause lies in the way society functions. You have consensus over policies. If you don't have consensus over policies, people will evade taxes. So it's not a question of direct taxes, indirect taxes, and so on. It's really there. And indirect taxes are regressive. If you have more indirect taxes, regressive component of your economy will go up. It's stagflationary. So stagnation of the economy and inflationary component will go up. So direct taxes are known to be far better than indirect taxes. Okay? And because the cause is not a high tax rate, so because many countries which are doing very well, they have much higher tax rates than us. So that's not a direct cause. So we have to look at the other causes. As I said, it's the triad that underlies it. And the triad is what really then makes people feel that there's no social justice in the system.
Any other questions?
Sir, there is a proposal of BTT, Bank
Transaction
Transaction Tax. So I had to talk with the CA. They said that it can have a boom in the banking sector. What is your take on it?
See, this Arthakranti people are the ones who suggested this demonetization and BTT and elimination of all the taxes. Huh? So they came to me in 2013 when I had gone to Gokhale Institute to give a keynote address at a conference. They came to me and discussed. So I said, neither BTT will work nor demonetization will work. See, BTT at 2% your financial sector just collapse. Why? Because you see, in the stock market, your margins are 0.1%. So 2% tax on 0.1% will make it 200% tax. Your stock market will collapse. No? Your derivatives market has a margin of 0.01%. So it's like a 2000% tax. Your derivatives markets will collapse. Okay? All capital will run away. So if you implement a BTT of this kind, unless you grade it properly, it won't work. Then it could turn out to be very regressive if you try to grade it properly. Okay? And you want to avoid the regressive component of taxation. So in other words, BTT and elimination of all other taxes is also something that I would not suggest.
And one more question. There is a conception that the more the liquidity in the circulation, the less will be the value of the currency. That's where America is a superpower right now, because there is a concept of plastic money there. People here tend to...
No, but there's a lot of currency there also.
No,
I was
like
just
plastic money where...
But plastic money is also money, so it's not cash only. That's why M0, M1, M2, M3 have to grade it. And money supply is not just cash. Money supply also means plastic, it also means checking, etc. And in Japan, the ratio is 18%. Japan has done very well. So Japan uses a lot of cash, some other economies use a lot of cash. So cash by itself is not the point. It is what you use it for and how you use it. So cash is not black. Cash is not the value of your currency. So, Japan with a very low value of the yen doesn't mean it's a weak economy. So your currency may have less value compared to the dollar, doesn't mean that you will be a weak economy. Okay. So the strength of an economy depends on its productivity, its production, its employment, and those kind of things. Not on whether vis-a-vis a dollar, whether it's 60 rupees or whether it's 40 rupees or 10 rupees. You can revalue your currency and you can call 50 rupees as 1 rupee. Then suddenly your dollar and rupee will become in parity. But that won't mean that suddenly you become more productive or that suddenly you become stronger. That's a notional value. So that doesn't decide the strength of your